What the most famous actor alive has spent 30 years running from something, and every single role he's ever chosen is the proof. Not the roles that made him famous, not the ones that won the awards or filled the theaters. All of them. Every obsessive, tortured, hollow man he has ever played. Every character who had everything and couldn't hold on to it. Every performance felt less like acting and more like a confession nobody was supposed to hear. Here's what this channel does. My name is Celebrum Secrets, and this is Celebrum Secrets, where we go past the headline, past the publicist, past the curated image, and into the room where the real story lives. Stay with this one, because what you're about to hear doesn't just change how you see Leonardo DiCaprio. It changes how you see the whole machine that built him. Leonardo DiCaprio grew up in a neighborhood where success was not a plan. It was an escape route. East Hollywood in the late 1970s. Not the Hollywood of premieres and pool parties. The other Hollywood. The one with crack pipes on the sidewalk and broken chain link fences, and the specific smell of a city slowly rotting at its edges. His parents divorced when he was 1 year old. His mother, Ermeline, raised him alone. His father, George, was present in his life, but the household was fractured early, and the world young Leonardo saw outside the window of their apartment was not one that rewarded patience. He has described walking to school past drug dealers and prostitutes before he was old enough to understand what either word meant. The neighborhood shaped something in him that no amount of fame ever fully smoothed out. A hyper-awareness, a reading of rooms, an ability to become whoever the situation needed him to be before anyone asked. And here's where it gets genuinely strange. That skill, the one born out of pure survival instinct in one of Los Angeles' most unforgiving zip codes, turned out to be worth hundreds of millions of dollars. His first auditions didn't go well. That's the version he tells. What he leaves out is that his father, George DiCaprio, was not a civilian observer in his son's early career. George was a poet, a comics distributor, a figure in the underground art scene who had spent years on the fringes of a world where image and reality were always negotiating with each other. He introduced young Leonardo to that world early. He took him to art shows and underground screenings, and places where the rules of straight society didn't quite apply. Whatever Leonardo became, he didn't become it in a vacuum. He started getting small television work in his early teens. Commercials first, then bit parts on shows most people have already forgotten. The money helped. It also did something more dangerous than help. It made him feel like the thing he suspected about himself might actually be true, that he was different, that he could do something most people couldn't, that the escape route was real, and he was already on it. Then came the audition that nearly didn't happen. He was 13 years old when a casting director told him he needed a new name and a new agent if he wanted to be taken seriously. The name Leonardo, she said, was too ethnic, too unusual, too difficult for the industry to place. She suggested Leo Williams. He went home, told his father, and his father told him to keep his name. George DiCaprio understood something the casting director didn't or wouldn't admit, that the name, the face, the whole identity was a product. You don't sand down the thing that makes it interesting. He kept the name. He got the part. And the industry that told him to simplify himself ended up spending 3 decades trying to categorize someone that fundamentally couldn't. His first serious role was in Critters 3 in 1991. He was 17. The film is not remembered, but what happened on that set is a director who knew nothing about how to use a young actor with that level of raw instinct in a script that deserved none of it watched something in that kid that made him uncomfortable. Not uncomfortable in the way that causes concern. Uncomfortable in the way that causes jealousy. The crew noticed it. The kid had something. Nobody wanted to say it out loud, because saying it out loud meant acknowledging that you were watching a person become. The following year, Robert De Niro personally requested him. Let that land for a second. Not an open audition. Not a submission through an agent. Robert De Niro, one of the most technically exacting, personally demanding, psychologically forensic actors who had ever lived, watched the tape of the 17-year-old kid from East Hollywood and said, essentially, that one, this is eating Gilbert Grape. 1993. Leonardo DiCaprio playing Arnie Grape, a young man with a developmental disability, the brother at the center of a story about entrapment and obligation and the weight of love. He did not speak to the cast between takes. He did not break character on set. He studied in group homes. He watched. He absorbed. He became something that people in the theater did not know how to describe, except by saying that it didn't feel like performance. He was 19 years old. Johnny Depp, his co-star, has since described what it was like to watch him work. The word he used was unsettling, not because it was bad, because it was too real. If you found yourself watching this and thinking, I thought I knew this story, stay with it. Because this is exactly where the story most people know ends, and where the story nobody talks about begins. The nomination came, his first Academy Award nomination, at 19 years old for Best Supporting Actor. He did not win. And what happened in the room when they announced the winner? What happened on his face? What he said to people around him? How he carried himself out of that building? Nobody photographed it. Nobody wrote it down. But people who were there describe a young man who had understood in one moment exactly how the game worked, and who decided right there that he was going to play it differently. He turned down Romeo and Juliet 3 times before he agreed to it. He turned down Titanic twice. He has made this sound like artistic caution, and part of it was. But the other part, the part that doesn't make it into the press junket answers, was something more specific. He was terrified, not of failure. He had already survived failure. He was terrified of becoming a face, of becoming a poster, of becoming the thing that the machine needed him to be rather than the thing he decided to be on the night of that first nomination. He took Titanic because James Cameron told him the film would fail without him, and that if it succeeded, it would make him so famous he would never be able to walk into a room as a normal person again. Cameron said this not as a warning. He said it as a pitch. And Leonardo DiCaprio said yes. The film grossed $2.187 billion. It was at that point the highest grossing film in the history of cinema. His face was on every magazine cover on earth. Teenage girls waited outside his apartment. Serious journalists wrote serious think pieces about whether he's safe. They confused people. The critics, who had been ready to anoint him, started writing pieces about squandered potential. His agents were reportedly losing their minds. His manager at the time has since described a period where nobody in his circle could understand what he was doing. He knew exactly what he was doing. He was protecting something. The question that nobody asked out loud back then, but that becomes impossible to avoid if you watch the career in full, is what exactly he was protecting it from. Remember the things said at the beginning. Every role a confession. Every character running from something. Hold that thought. Gangs of New York. 2002, Martin Scorsese. A brutal, violent, operatic film about identity and belonging and the violence that lives underneath the surface of civilized society. DiCaprio plays Amsterdam Valen, a man who has buried his real identity to survive. A man who performs a version of himself that the dangerous world around him needs to see while hiding the thing that is actually driving him. The Aviator. 2004, Howard Hughes. A man of extraordinary public achievement and catastrophic private collapse. A man whose external life and internal life had almost nothing to do with each other. Whose obsessions consumed him. Whose need for control was not about the work. It was about holding together something inside himself that was constantly threatening to fall apart. The Departed. 2006, a man living a double life, performing one identity for one world and a completely different identity for another, terrified that either world will discover the truth, living in a state of permanent, low-level dread that the two versions of himself will collide. Blood Diamond, Revolutionary Road, Shutter Island, The Great Gatsby, The Wolf of Wall Street, The Revenant, one after another, a gallery of men who have everything the world promised them and are destroyed by it. Men who cannot be still. Men who cannot be known. Men who are performing a version of themselves for an audience that does not know what they are actually watching. You're probably thinking this is a reading, a projection, an interpretation. Stay with it. In 2016, Leonardo DiCaprio won the Academy Award for Best Actor for The Revenant. He had been nominated 5 times before. He had lost every time. The speech he gave had been analyzed and quoted and mocked and praised. But there is one moment in it that almost nobody commented on at the time. He paused, not for applause, not for effect, He paused because something crossed his face that was not gratitude, and was not relief, and was not the particular performance of humility that people give at those podiums. It was something older, something that looked, for exactly 1 second, like a man recognizing that the thing he'd been running from for 23 years had finally caught him, and that he had run far enough that catching was no longer the disaster he had always assumed it would be. He grew up without stability. He grew up watching a neighborhood consume people. He grew up in a fractured household, learning to read danger before it arrived, learning to be whoever the room needed, learning that the real self was something you protected by never fully showing it. And then he built a career out of playing men who couldn't do what he had spent his entire life doing. Men who got caught, men who got consumed, men who couldn't hold the two versions of themselves together long enough to survive. If this is landing the way it should, if you're seeing the pattern, this channel is where you come when you want a version of the story the press release left out. Subscribe now, not because you have to, because what we cover next is the part of this story that will make everything you just heard make even more sense. There is one more layer: his environmental activism, the foundation, the documentaries, the speeches at the United Nations. This is a part of the public Leonardo DiCaprio that exists entirely outside the films. And most people engage with it as a celebrity doing celebrity things, showing up to the right events, saying the right words, attaching a famous name to a worthy cause. But look at the timing. His public environmental work began seriously in the mid to late 90s, right in the window between Titanic and the deliberate retreat from everything Titanic had built around him, when he was navigating what it meant to be the most famous person alive and trying to find something that existed outside of that. The environmental work was not public relations, not initially. It was, by every account of the people around him at the time, an obsession, the same quality of obsession that he brought to every role he ever committed to. He has said in interviews that the loss of natural environments feels personal to him in a way that is difficult to articulate. He has used the word grief. He has described watching ecosystems collapse the way you would describe watching something you love disappear. The language is not the language of a spokesperson. It is a language of someone who recognizes the shape of a loss they have felt before. Here's the question worth sitting with. Do you think what drove his career was ambition, or was it something he was trying to outrun? Drop it in the comments. This conversation is worth having. He has never married. He has been in a series of long relationships, most of them with women significantly younger than him, most of them ending around the same point. He has spoken about this with the same careful distance he brings to everything personal. The answers are thoughtful, considered. They reveal very little. The people who work closely with him, directors, producers, co-stars, describe someone who is extraordinarily present on set and extraordinarily private off it, generous with his time and the work, protective of everything else. They describe someone who is warm and difficult and brilliant and exhausting and deeply, genuinely committed to the thing he has decided his life is for. Nobody describes someone at peace. And here's the final piece of the picture that almost nobody puts together in full. The boy who grew up in East Hollywood learning to read dangerous rooms, learning to perform the version of himself that each situation required, learning to hide the real self as a survival strategy. That boy grew up to be the actor who is described consistently by every major director he has ever worked with as a person on set who is most completely present, who disappears into the character most entirely, who leaves the least amount of himself visible once the camera rolls. That is not technique. That is not training. That is 30 years of practice at becoming someone else. The people who watch this channel are not here for the version of the story you already knew. They're here for the thing underneath it. If that's you, subscribe, because what's coming next makes this look like the opening chapter. The career is not a mystery. The pattern is right there, once you know where to look. A boy who learned early that the real self was something you kept hidden, who found a profession that rewarded him for that exact skill, who spent 30 years playing men who could not do what he had always done, contain themselves, survive themselves, protect the thing inside from the thing outside, and who finally, on a stage in Hollywood in 2016, in front of everyone he had ever worked for and worked with and worked against, let it land. Just for 1 second. Let the thing he had been running from catch up. That pause, that face, That 1 second where performance stopped. That was the most honest moment Leonardo DiCaprio has ever shown the world. That is what 30 years of watching, performing, hiding, and finally arriving looks like when it happens in real time. If this opens something for you, a question, a pattern, a different way of seeing someone you thought you already understood, then there is something else that belongs right after this. The story we are covering next follows a different kind of performer. Someone whose public collapse was not hidden behind layers of control, but happened in full view of everyone watching. And what was underneath, it was something nobody in that industry was willing to name out loud. You will want to see it. Everything you just heard makes it hit differently. It is next